All right, y'all, back in Simio. The goal of today is to take this model that we've been exploring and then expand it a little bit by adding in a different customer type and then making use of a data table to store information about those entities that we can reference in different parts of the model. Okay, so a good practice is to take a model that we have that's working, that we like, and then duplicating that. So if I right click and then duplicate the model, now I'm going to get another version of this model that has all of the properties within the typical nomenclature that takes your previous model and then just appends a one. So let's just rename this to say to BioMem1 online customer. Okay, and the reason why is I want to explore what it would be like if we added in another customer source um, for customers that make their orders online and just need to come up into the restaurant to pick them up. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to add in another source, and I'm going to need, you can see here, my only entity available is the customer type because that's what I've defined. So I need to actually drag another version of the model entity out here, and then I will call this um, online customer. And then I will adjust my source to select those, and then I'll call this source online source. So these customers, let's just say that they're kind of infrequent. So um, every 6 minutes or so, you'll get a customer coming in just to pick up their order. And here we'll say that these are more common. So roughly every 3 minutes, you have a customer coming in to pick up and eat inside the restaurant, or at least order at the counter and then eat wherever they please. So in order to make this more clear, I'm actually going to apply a color to this one. So I'm going to apply yellow. So now this customer is yellow, the online customer, so we can see it easier. Let's add in some connectors and then we'll get going. Okay. Not as efficient as I could have been. Could have double clicked to add in as many connectors as I needed. Okay, so I have these customers that are arriving at different rates, and I imagine that the online customers, their service time in fast food would be really short. So I could do some sort of complicated processing time logic here to account for if this, then this. But something that might be a little easier is to reference a data table that stores the information for us. So let's go to data, let's go to tables, and we're going to add a table, which is a collection of one or more rows, and these are property values that entities can reference. So table one, I'm going to call this customer data. All right. And I'm going to add in a property. The first one I'm going to add in is the object reference property. This is referring to the objects that already exist within the model, and the entity is going to be useful because it's just going to give me a visual representation of what I'm referencing. So the customer, and I'm selecting in here the automatic dropdown online customer. So row one is going to refer to our in-person customers, and row two is going to refer to our online customer. Okay. Now, as opposed to just calling this entity instance property one, we'll just call this customer type. That's only the display name. I need to change it down here. So typer type. Great. Okay, so I want to put in the processing time. Let's look at the properties that I have. The expression data type is very useful. So let's call this expression service rate. And instead of unspecified unit type, I'll have it be a time, and baseline will be in hours. Okay, now here, if I click to edit how long it takes an in-person customer to be served, and if I start typing in here, let's say I want to be read exponential, the equation editor, the expression editor doesn't pop up automatically, which is kind of annoying. But how I can get around this is if I click in the white space out here, or if I click in this gray space. So you can see how now I actually have the ability over here to edit this expression. So I'll say that the customers that are in the restaurant, it takes them time to order. So it's going to take them 5 minutes on average, or there's 5 minutes in between complete orders for them to figure out what's on the menu, and the baseline is in minutes. For the online customers, they're only coming in to pick up. So let's change their service rate to be something really quick, like a random.exponential with a inner arrival or inner service time of 1 minute. All right, so we have this table which has columns and rows. We need to get our entity somehow to be able to reference the information in this table. Let's go to the facility view. If I click here, customer source, there's a property called table row referencing. So if I click that, before creating entities is my option, reference existing row. Okay, what's my table? Customer data. What's the row number? Simio starts indexing at 1. So hard code the number 1, meaning every property in the data table in row 1 belongs to customers. Cool. All right, let's go to the online source and do the same thing before creating entities, but we're going to reference row 2 instead. So customer data and then 2. Okay, now how do we make use of this data table? Well, if we go to fast food, instead of processing time being some fixed time for all customers, let's reference the data table. So we called it customer data. You can see that that table right here is available, table customer data. I'll double click that. Dot, what do we say? Service rate. Okay, I'll arrow down and then tab complete. And now you can see that there is a little arrow that said it's referencing something else. Like that little arrow says, I'm referencing this data table. I'm going to do the same thing here, where I'm going to reference customer data and the service rate. All right. So now the service rate is dependent upon the entity that comes in. Let's run the model and see what happens. So you can see that entities pile up. They're randomly choosing. If we step, you can see that when there is an online customer, right now it's 9:40 in the morning and 33 seconds. If we step forward, it finished its service in, what is that, 14 seconds? So that's pretty fast, while the in-person customer is still waiting to finish their order, right? Like they're still taking the time to finish their order. So this is functioning how I want it to function, and we can watch the pretty green and yellow triangles run. So I hope that you found that useful in terms of adding in different entity types and referencing a data table. Best of luck and happy modeling.